Welcome to the Erotic Realm podcast, where we explore the psychology of darker desires. I'm Em, and if you're new here, welcome. I'm a psychosexuality nerd with a background in psychology, sociology, medical science, and Tantra. I'm also in a 24/7 collared relationship, and I created this podcast with the mission of humanizing kinksters. Join me here for one-on-one, in-depth conversations as we explore the fascinating world of eroticism, one erotic realm at a time. If you love what we're doing here in the erotic realm, I'd like to ask you a quick favor. Can you follow and rate the show wherever you listen? It helps the show reach more people like you. And if you haven't yet, I'd love if you could subscribe to my Substack, Psychology of Desire. This is where I go even deeper into the science and symbolism of desire, archetypes, and erotic evolution. You'll get access to articles, unique surveys and research, and behind-the-scenes access to everything I'm building. Simply visit psychologyofdesire.substack.com. I'll see you there. And now, for today's episode. What you're about to hear in this episode is something a little different. They're not full interviews, and they're not complete stories. They're also not meant to represent anyone's entire erotic identity. What you're about to hear are peak erotic experiences, moments shared on the erotic realm over the past year that stood out not just for their intensity, but for their psychological depth. These are the moments that people remember, the moments that linger long after the scene ends. The moments that quietly reorganize how someone understands their own desire. A peak erotic experience isn't necessarily the most extreme thing that someone has done. It isn't always the most explicit, and it isn't even always about orgasm. Peak erotic experiences are moments where desire, meaning, and emotional intensity converge. They often feel distinct, almost outside of ordinary time, as though something essential was crossed, revealed, or claimed. The psychologist who gave us the clearest language for understanding this was Jack Morin in his book, The Erotic Mind. Morin wasn't interested in cataloguing kinks or sexual techniques. Instead, he asked people a deceptively simple question. What was the most erotic experience of your life? And what he found was striking. Across genders, orientations, relationships, and sexual styles, people's peak erotic experiences followed similar psychological patterns. What mattered most wasn't what people did, but how desire interacted with tension. Morin observed that peak erotic experiences tend to arise when desire meets an obstacle, something that resists it, a line that feels risky to cross. There's often emotional exposure, being seen, surrendering control, admitting a truth, or allowing oneself to want what once felt forbidden. Power frequently plays a role, sometimes explicitly. Sometimes it's more subtle, a shift in polarity, trust, or psychological position. Many peak experiences involve permission to feel, permission to cross an internal boundary, permission to become someone slightly different on the other side of the moment. And often people describe entering a different state altogether. Time distorts, awareness narrows, the body becomes intensely present. In this way, peak erotic experiences are less about sex itself and more about states of being. As you listen to the moments that follow, I invite you not to focus on the specifics of what's being described, although that's certainly fun. Instead, I invite you to listen to where the tension lives, where the risk appears, where permission is granted, where power shifts, where something internal changes. These excerpts are offered not as a spectacle, but as glimpses into how the erotic mind actually works when it's most alive. What follows are selected peak erotic experiences shared on the erotic realm this year. If you'd like to explore the erotic realm of one of them more fully, I've listed the episodes they are from in the show notes below. I invite you to listen slowly and notice what resonates. Who knows? You may even be inspired to explore a new experience that may become a peak erotic experience for you one day. Enjoy. Can you share with us a peak experience that you've had, an experience that really sticks out from your erotic journey as a photographer?
Let's see. To be honest, it's been more technical than more interactions with the models that I work with. And what I mean by that is I recently purchased a new camera, which has tremendously changed the quality of my work. And I feel it has allowed me to grow into the photographer that I've always wanted to become. Now, a lot of people say, oh, it's not really the equipment you work with. You can create art with an iPhone or just a simple camera. And yes, they're absolutely right. Photography is something that is very difficult. And like every artist, some people have the eye for it and some don't. I like to think about it as someone who can sing is something that really is not you can work to getting good at singing, but you're not going to be a professional because I feel it's a gift that you have. It's an innate gift that you have that you can't learn. Some people have it and some people don't. On my end, I feel like I have to work a little bit harder to capture the things that I want. I don't have the innate eye that these amazing photographers who come out, pick up a camera, take a picture, and it's, award winning. So purchasing the camera has definitely allowed me to grow as a photographer personally.
Can you share with us a peak experience that you've had, an experience that really sticks out to you from all of your kink exploration and why it stands out?
So I used to self-harm. I was a cutter until my mid-20s and fairly severely. And at 41, I had the opportunity to teach at SubCon in New York City. And as part of the conference, they had brought on a number of professionals who you could set up scenes with for the dungeon night. And I went to the dungeon, which was this warehouse in Brooklyn, New York, and I'd set up a knife scene with this guy who goes by Naughty Boy. And we get to this huge warehouse in Brooklyn, and it was the first time I had done a knife scene, and I'm laying on the table and he's running them all over me, and it was really sexy and hot. And at the end, he gave me the little knife at the end as a memory. And for me, it was really intense because I was concerned that it might trigger those old desires, and it was so opposite of self-harm. It wasn't about oblivion and getting out of my body and not wanting to be here. It was about so much connecting with my body, connecting with him, connecting with the moment, and being okay, that it was very transformative for me.
That's such a powerful experience. Thank you for sharing. And I can see why the secretary was so resonant for you.
Oh, yeah.
Now. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, I'm really looking forward to the answer to this question. Can you
Oh,
share
boy.
with us can you share with us a peak experience that you've had with the whip, an experience that really sticks out to you from all of your exploration and why it stands out?
Oh, geez.
Just whatever
there's
comes
not
to
really,
mind.
there's not really one. But actually, one of the chapters in my book, I talk about those peak experiences there.
Oh.
And it wouldn't just be with the whip. It would be everyone has their own kink, especially hopefully all your listeners around the world. Everybody's going to have their own kink. And for everyone, you're going to have those peak experiences. And what those peak experiences are is 10 years from now, when you look back and you remember that scene in that setting, you can remember details about it. I could tell you the song that was playing. Those peak moments with the bullwhip, playing for the first time with Glorious and Thunder in the Mountains, um, the Thunder in the Mountains after party. That's that same convention. I was playing with Lady of Dreams at the after party, and Led Zeppelin's John Bonham's drum solo, Moby Dick, came on. So those peak moments with the whip, you can recall the time, the location, who you were playing with, the song that was playing, playing with Pain Boy at the Floating World, 2009. Pain Boy gave me a ceremonial knife that had an obsidian blade and a deer horn handle. He's Cherokee. I believe he's Sioux Indian. We did a smudge pot at his feet and had white sage wafting up over his naked body as I whipped him. And I had a drum circle around the cross, and they were drumming in rhythm to my whip. I mean, those kinds of whip scenes, they're just peak. You'll never forget. I'll never forget those, and I describe some of those in a chapter in my book. But for anyone who has a peak scene, and it doesn't have to always be the whip. I mean, I was in a basement dungeon at a house party playing with Chantilly, and she has a tickle fetish, and I didn't know she had a tickle fetish. I was doing a Violet Wand scene with her, and she was so ticklish, she was orgasming repeatedly from just waves of orgasm from the Violet Wand.
Amazing.
But I can remember that like like I'm right there, right now, clearly in my mind. So those peak kind of moments just kind of get branded in your brain in long-term memory, and you can pull those back up and relive those, and share those again, share those feelings again. And the only sad part is many of those people have passed on.
Yeah, that is sad.
So it's sad to remember some of that.
Yeah, mixed emotions. Yeah.
It's mixed emotion, sure.
Well, I really appreciate you still going there and pushing yourself to share some of those with us. And is that in your first book that you mentioned, the dungeon?
No, those are in my second book.
The second book. So if people want to read it,
I talk about those peak scenes where I think it's in the chapter actually where I was talking about music, because I can remember the song that was playing.
Yep.
In those peak scenes. And at this point, I've been throwing enough years. I've got like 7 or 8 peak scenes that I share that I can just recall where I was, what the person was wearing, which whip I was throwing, what song was playing. And I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday morning,
Yeah. And, your memories of it and the emotions, it just speaks to how meaningful BDSM scenes can be and are for a lot of people. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure our listeners do as well. Love it. Now, you've had such a rich and varied erotic journey. I'm curious to hear from you. When you look back, is there a moment that stands out as a kind of peak erotic experience that you've had? A time when something clicked, shifted, or expanded in a way that that left you feeling deeply satisfied, transformed, or even surprised by your own erotic self?
That is a tough question.
Is there like an experience that comes to mind when I ask it?
I would say collaring Melissa, because that also went with our 25th anniversary, and being covered.
So was the collaring a public ceremony or more private?
Oh, it was very public.
Can you share a little bit about it?
Sure. There was a space in Baltimore, Maryland at the time called the Baltimore Playhouse, and it was in a row home. It has since burned down, sadly. But we had rented that space. That space had been used for parties that we went to on a regular basis. So we were very familiar with this place. And we invited, I don't know, about 50 or so of our 50 of our closest friends to share in the public collaring of Melissa. And we rented the space. We purchased custom outfits, and we decorated, and we had it catered, and we had people from local people as well as people from Canada who came to visit or to observe and participate in our collaring. So that was a pretty big, momentous undertaking, as well as a very fun remembrance of the collaring of Melissa.
Okay, I'm so curious to hear from you after all of these varied experiences that you've had, and you've lived such an interesting life. What is a peak erotic experience of yours that you're happy to share with our listeners?
Well, there's a lot, right? So I'm just going to randomly choose one. I'm trying to be politically sensitive to my current relationship too, so I don't want to bring up one of the older ones. There was one that was an older. It's pretty good. We had our last fling, if you will, was with a fella who he had sex with both of us, and it was at a time when we were between houses. We were living in a little dump ass trailer, and Marie had put me in some pretty tight bondage and a ring gag harness, and he throat fucked me pretty good, and then got on the bed and fucked her, and I had to watch, and that's just one of my favorite things that ever happened. That was just a really hot scene. And after he came, she took the condom off of him and, fed me his cum, and it made a mess all over my face. And that was just kind of good, honest fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Thank you for listening to The Erotic Realm. If this episode stirred something in you, please take a moment to follow the show, leave a rating, or write a review on wherever you're listening. It helps more people find the show and brings visibility to this deeper conversation about eroticism and self-understanding. I'd also like to invite you to dive deeper into the psychology of desire, including my writing, research, and upcoming courses over at psychologyofdesire.com. And if you want the full experience, join thousands of curious minds on my Substack at psychologyofdesire.substack.com. This is where I release the Psychology of Desire case files, behind-the-scenes thoughts, and intimate reflections every week, plus more. Until next time, stay curious, stay embodied, and keep exploring. Also, as always, stay perverted.